Hi ho! This is Dr. Tom the Frog, and you're watching Virtuacon. This is a panel for Virtuacon, which is hosted by RPG Geek. I've been lucky enough, been asked to host a panel, and this panel is called Playing Small, and it's all about RPGs where you are not like your big normal oafish, no offense, humans, and you play things like bugs that are little or mice. I'm not a big fan of mice, but that's okay. Or crazy animals called Mictim. And it's a pretty right for all the RPGs out there. There's a lot of exciting games, and so we're going to talk about why they're cool and why you should all be playing them and why orcs kind of suck. No offense, Rogers. Okay, now we've got a great panel here. I'm excited. First of all, we have from Third Eye Games. We have Aloy Lasanta, who's creator of Infestation, which is a game about bugs, and Thimble, which you play little people. How are you doing, Aloy?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you, Dr. Tom?
Oh, I'm pretty peachy. I'm here in my game room, got all my posters around me. I'm not at the normal news desk because this is an informal panel. And I got my Firefly laptop here, so. All right, now, Q&A is on. Just want to let everybody know. So if you have a question that you want to know about playing small, we've got lots of experts. So I'm going to get on to the next expert. We have from across the pond, the creator of Mictim, Fluffy Adventures. We have Georg Mir. How are you doing, Georg?
Hey there, I'm fine. It's okay. How are you?
I'm great. Wait, what's the shirt you got there?
It's the Mictim t-shirt.
That is so cool. Is that a wizard dude?
Yeah, it's a sorcerer, bard. Sorry, I got it all mixed up. Courtier and a cook.
A cook? Oh man, that's the class I want to play.
Yeah. Cook. It's really awesome, you know. Very useful.
Oh, and then last but not least, we have a kind of a rock star from Virtuacon. We have Wolf Bergenheim, who's running like 86 different rodent adventure games, like different RPGs. How are you doing, Wolf?
Great. How are you, Dr. Tom?
Oh, I'm fantastic. So now tell me, what are all the games that you have lined up on the slate for this weekend for Virtuacon? Because I gotta know.
So the small games, that's the ones that are interesting, right? So I'm running. Well, it's kind of not small animals, but still animals. Usagi Yojimbo, who is a rabbit samurai, and his friends, who are all animals. Then I'm also running Hyperborean mice, which is, well, barbarian mice with swords and sorcery. And then finally I'm also running a game of, hang on, it's Historia Rodentia, a game about Napoleonic rodents and other animals, kind of carving out empires in their country or their land, which is similar to Napoleonic Europe. So looking forward to those, actually.
Oh man, that sounds great. And yes, yesterday you ran Mictim, right?
Yesterday I ran Mictim, yes.
Okay.
And that was a great experience.
See, so I've got two designers, and then I've got one person who actually knows how the game plays. Sorry, joking. It's joking. It's a game design joke. The game designers don't run they're always making games. That's a joke. Well, I think Aloy and Georg play lots of games. Okay, that was not the best joke. Rogers, strike that from the record. All right, so let's talk a little bit. I might be a kind of an odd person to ask this, but what is it? So what's so cool for you human guys about playing a game as anthropomorphic animals or insects? What about you, Aloy? What's cool about it for you?
Well, you know what's interesting about playing games like that is that it kind of allows you to get outside of yourself. I mean, it's like playing a human is like, well, I'm a human and I'm a cook, or I'm a human and I'm a barbarian, or I'm a human and, you know, playing something, and even some of the other fantasy games where you play an elf, but an elf is like a human with pointy ears, or you play an orc, and an orc is just a human but is bigger and green. You know, it's like, but like really kind of putting yourself inside of another world that is completely different than what it's like to be a human is actually one of those really, really fun things that role-playing allows us to all do.
Yeah, Yeah, I like that. Wolf, what about you?
What I like about it is, well, especially playing small, is that just imagine, so you're this little tiny mouse or frog, for that matter. You sort of things that we take for granted become huge obstacles. Let's take a fall rainstorm. Suddenly you have these flash floods, which to us humans, yeah, whatever, you just walk over them. But a small mouse can be in a big trouble if he sort of is suddenly flushed away by one of these flash floods. And just about everything out there is out to eat you, which is also, in my opinion, pretty interesting and adds to the struggle of existing, which then generates very interesting stories. And that's why I run these games, because I'm in it for the stories.
Now, Wolf, I'm curious. You've never eaten a mouse, have you?
No, I wouldn't.
Have you ever eaten frog legs?
I shouldn't say this. No comment.
Okay, Georg, what about you? What's exciting about playing Anthropomorphic? Why did you make Mictim?
I'm a bit with Eloy on this matter. You totally change your perspective, and suddenly, to me, humans also become awesome because they are like dragons. You know, they are giant. They are very powerful. Everyday people, like children, can be a really big challenge for a small creature, and that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to have meetings in a small scale. My boyfriend, who also co-inspired the game, we have an ongoing argument about the size of Mictim, sorry. To him, they are like this big, and to me, they are like this. So we always have discussions about what is appropriate, and then we came up with a solution called Schrumpfpaste, which is shrinking paste. And using shrinking paste, you can change the size of objects. So that way, you can even become that small.
Oh man, that's hilarious! I love the shrink. It kind of reminds me of Alice in Wonderland. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to stick with you, Georg, if you could.
Okay.
Now, in games of Mictim, whether you're the little or the bigger Mictim, how do you make the size and the scale of the environment interesting in games? Is that something you do mechanical, or is that just purely something that the GMs kind of spins the yarn?
I think the way I designed the game to be, it's like a toolkit. It's not the manifesto of role-playing games, and it has to be like that. It has some solutions built into it, and other things are left open for house rules and stuff. But regarding the size, there are measurements, which is interesting because I use both meters and yards. So in brackets to be understandable for all gamers, and usually they use increments of 30 feet, I think. 30 feet is just a close range, yeah. And then I use longer ranges, which are tracked in yards or meters, and it sounds reliable because 1 meter is not much, but to a sorcerer it's a lot because they are so small, and 1 meter is a big distance for them.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So size and actually having the definite size. Okay, cool. Eloy, you've got 2 games with Thimble and Infestation. Boy, Infestation, that game about bugs, I really eat it up. So how do you make scale and size of the protagonists, as you might call them? How do you make that important in the game?
Well, I mean, honestly, for me, it's more a matter of really kind of trying to capture what it's like to exist in a world from the bug's point of view or from the little people's point of view. For instance, in in Infestation, what we ended up doing was kind of creating a bunch of different household hazards that characters may or may not come upon, and we word everything in what the bugs would call it, which actually kind of then people have to go, well, wait, what is that? Wait a minute. Like the kitchen is Cabinet City because that's what the bugs call it. They don't call it a kitchen because that's what we call it. But I mean, the hazards we have were like the Inferno cabinet, which is an oven, or the Whirlpool machine, which is a washing machine. And it's like these giant hazards that are like the Grand Canyon and all of these giant structures like the Eiffel Tower and whatnot in our world, where they might have to travel for days to get to it, and then it's actually really, really dangerous. But I think honestly, the way to make it important is to make sure that the people are really experiencing it from the bug's point of view.
Oh, that's sharp though. The changing of vernacular. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I'm pretty well domesticated to humans to understand what you people mean, you pinkies. But that.
I mean,
That makes
obviously,
a
you
lot.
already have an MD and everything.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, 7 years in amphibian medical school doesn't count for anything. Counts for that. Wolf, I'm curious though. In the games that you're running, how are you making scale? What's the biggest thing that you have for the rodents to face?
So in one game I ran previously, before this con actually, I ran a game of Mouse Guard, and one of the biggest foes I've had them meet is a fox, and but if you so fox to a human isn't that big, but then when you're this small, it becomes huge, and that became almost an adventure in itself in how to deal with the fox, because it was interfering with what the mice were trying to do. And of course, they also don't want to be eaten, and because that's what foxes mostly do, they eat mice. So trying to chase it away, but even though they have weapons and stuff, their weapons are largely ineffectual against this. So they have to think out of the box and try to figure out ways to, okay, how do I scare away a fox when I'm this small? Which kind of becomes, okay, how do I chase away a dragon if you want to think it in human scale? And it becomes interesting. And then I also so in the Micting game yesterday, for instance, interacting with, so in some of the games there are humans and in others there aren't. Well, in Micting there are humans, and it's fun having the characters interact in a human environment. So yesterday they were trying to type on a computer. They had to roll acrobatics in order to do something as easy as typing on a keyboard, because a Micting is pretty small, so they have to jump around and only hit those keys that you want to hit. So typing becomes very difficult, for instance. And these are the kind of challenges I like throwing at my players.
Oh, Georg, I think Wolf. I think Georg. Just so you know, I think it sounds like Wolf is using your version of Mictim. Yeah, because I think your boyfriend's version of Mictim, they could type on a keyboard with, like, I don't know, they'd have bonuses or something.
My version is the official one, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going with that. Also, when I was a teenager, I had a hamster, or a dwarf hamster pet, so I'm basing the scale roughly on that.
Yeah, dwarf hamsters are the actual representation to me, so. Not the normal hamsters, they are bigger.
Yeah,
so.
They are. We're in agreement then.
Very cool. Okay, so Wolf, I'm going to stick with you for just a second here. So Mouse Guard and Historica Rodentia and Mictim all have kind of similar scale, it sounds like.
Sure, yeah.
Which of the three rule systems do you think, for you as a GM for those games, what is it that you like best about each of those three rule systems? Is there a favorite that you have, and how come?
I have a favorite, and that's none of the above. It's actually Fudge, which comes with a built-in scale and mass system, which I find very flexible and I'm a huge fan of Mictim since yesterday. It was a sort of I like how it was less on the sort of it was more on the conceptual, because it goes really into emotions, and they play sort of a huge role in the game, and at the same time you have to keep in mind that you're tiny. But the scale itself is not the mechanic, it's more like a story element to me, at least. In Mouse Guard, I really like the sort of the way they portray the environment being a hazard to mice. So even traveling from one city to another is basically almost an adventure, because it's full of danger. There are always animals out there who are trying to eat you. You have to try to stay hidden and walk around. Same also for the for my upcoming game of the barbarian mice. The sorry, I forget the name now.
Hyborian mice, right?
Yes, that's the one. They also depict the environment of the sort of roads between mouse cities and stuff as going through bushes and to stay hidden, because there will be lots of hawks and other predators out to get the mice, and the cities are mostly underground or inside of trees, similar to also Mictim, where the cities, well, the capital of Turnaya is basically inside of a huge tree, and I like that sort of having the environment as an obstacle and not just something you tromp around and skip past.
Huh. Cool. Thanks for that, Wolf. I appreciate you breaking it down for us. So, Aloy, how is it that, like in games like Thimble and Infestation, where everything's so small, how do you tell relevant stories? I mean, how do you make it matter? What are the stakes for something like that? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Now I got it. Well, it's interesting because I think every game is going to have a different level of stakes. Infestation is very much about the different types of bugs, and they're kind of fighting over control of the house. We have like a random house generator system that when you start the game, it kind of tells you who's in charge of what room. So you might have to, go through the lands of the ants in order to get to the king of the grasshoppers for for you to deliver a message from, the spider queen or, whatever. I mean, it's actually pretty cool the way that it's all kind of set up. But I would say it's actually kind of I don't even know. It's hard even to answer that, because what I do is I kind of create a different kind of experience, and I don't really kind of focus on that particular aspect of it. I'm kind of really trying to tell a good story, and the mechanics are there to reinforce that story, which is obviously what good game design is about. But in terms of stories and having them have an impact, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, obviously as a bug, you're trying to not get squished. That's like the biggest thing. But there are other things that you might need to do, such as saving friends from a bird, or things like that. I mean, it's kind of like what they said. It's the scale of it becomes a bird that eats bugs becomes one of the biggest obstacles that you can have, one of the biggest hazards, just because that's what they do. Like, they come every day, all day, trying to eat you, and it's really kind of a game of survival then at that point. Not to mention the giants, which are the humans, which are probably one of the worst enemies that there are in the game. Not talking bad about my own kind or anything, but from a bug, but from a bug's perspective, and even the way that we even handled it in our game was that we didn't even say, like, here's a human and here's the stats for a human. I mean, we actually kind of separated it out into separate things. So you might be fighting the broom that the human is wielding. You might be fighting a fly swatter. You might be fighting their hands. You might have to try and hit them in the eye. So here are the stats for trying to hit them in the eye. Here's the stats for trying to avoid getting squished by a boot. So it's like every piece of a human becomes kind of its own thing, which is also part of the fun of game design for this type of game.
Oh, it's neat. And you've been talking mostly about infestation, but can you talk a little bit about Thimble? Like, is there? You're not fighting people in a Thimble, right? I mean, imagine this like Secret World of Ariete, and then the Littles, right? That's kind of the inspiration for that game.
Yeah, exactly. And there are times when you have to fight a human. Usually, if they are trying to capture you, to expose you to the world and whatnot. And we actually do have where. We do have the humans split up in that game as well. That game was actually a big inspiration for going forward and designing Infestation as its own game. But yeah, I mean, we do actually have that as well. Of course, in Biggins, we have stats for glass jars, trying to avoid getting captured by a glass jar and whatnot. But I mean, it is kind of the same. And while you don't necessarily fight humans in either of those games, I think fight is a strong word because you're a little thing and it can squish you, pretty quickly. It's mostly stats on how to get away, how to trick it, how to avoid detection, and things like that.
Oh, that makes sense. So, Georg, I'm curious. You made up this little species called Mictim. And my production assistant, Monkey Rogers, he's got to know this. It's his own thing. He's got to think about orcs. So is there like an orc equivalent in your game for Mictim?
An orc equivalent. I'm not sure this is actually what you're asking, but I don't usually encourage my players to kill things. I'm not sure. Is that what you're asking? If there is monsters that you can kill?
Yeah. Are there like just there's a bad species of like I don't know, Mictum in backwards. How would you say Mictum backwards?
Mitchim? Mitchim? No, I'm not sure. It's pretty much the same backwards. No, there are other species. There are fairy tale creatures that are not handled in the core book, like kobolds and stuff, or how do we actually call them? Wurzelgeist, or yeah, there are creatures, yeah. But Mictims have this philosophy of not harming, or not at least not killing other creatures that have intellect. So it makes dungeon exploration and combat a bit complicated because you really need. You don't try to be too preachy about ethics. That's one thing, but on the other side, I encourage people to come up with different solutions than violence. Yeah, but if there's something to attack, it's in the current module that I'm working on. It's more like zombies or skeletons, but even those have some redeeming features and some points, like they're not, there's no cookie cutter monster that you can that you're allowed to kill. That's just not something I want to use in my game.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, like zombies, their redeeming quality is cheap labor.
Absolutely, yeah. They have a certain culture, pop culture, with necromancers. Necromancers are the celebrities, and they meet in dark forests, and it's a bit like their fandom. They're fans of necromancers. They flock to them.
That's kind of crazy times. I love that, Georg. I was making a joke, and you seriously work that into your game. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, skeletons. I guess skeletons, like they're low weight. Maybe they'd be good for flying things. I don't know, like birds. Is that what skeletons are good for? Pick your teeth. I'm not sure.
Making weapons out of skeletons.
Weapons out of if as long as it wasn't an old friend. Picking up a skeleton and whacking someone else with it, that I see that as a redeeming quality.
obviously.
So I'm curious though. You're talking about Mictum. Is this a game that you've written for mostly adult gamers, or is this for like a family game for children, or?
That's an interesting question. When I wanted to create it, when I had the concept, I had to create it. It was our shared fantasy with my boyfriend, who's in the next room, and I had the urge to create it, and the creatures really they are very cute, and this looks very kiddified, and I wanted to make a game that you can pick up with your kids, but in the design and test phase, I couldn't. I had no access to kids, so I couldn't playtest, and that was the reason why I said, okay, I'm taking kid-friendly out of the marketing, because I don't know it. Yeah. So initially, I just used it as sort of kawaii game and marketed it like that. But as it turns out, a lot of people played it with their kids, and because it's easy from the mechanics, easy to pick up, it seems to work. So nowadays, I say, yeah, it's a kid-friendly, family-friendly game. It has ethics and values, and it's not about booing someone for being angry. Anger is a part of life and personality. That's also useful in some way, and you should not tell your kids that they should not be angry. Don't be angry. Never be angry. You have to find a balance. That's one of my messages, I think.
That's pretty great, Georg. I appreciate you not putting it on the tin until it actually been tested. That's smart. I'm going to kick this over to Eloy because I know that, well, I think I know, but I'm pretty sure that Thimble and Infestation were all started by Mermaid Adventures, so that's all kind of in the same family-friendly. Is that right?
Yeah. It's all family-style gaming. Because Mermaid Adventures actually was my first family-style game that I released, and then Thimble is actually an expansion on that. It's just a quick little PDF that you can buy that uses the Mermaid Adventures rules to run a game of Little People. So that was good. Infestation, though, kind of took what I learned from Mermaid Adventures and designing Thimble and actually used that to create its own gaming book. So Infestation is a separate game from Mermaid Adventures, although it does use the same system, which is called the PIP system. But yeah, they're all family friendly though, because that was my goal with those games specifically. I actually got a review for Infestation where the guy said it's a really good game, but there aren't any rules for dying. So I don't know how you're supposed to handle that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a family style game. The game is not about can you fight until you die, which is what a lot of RPGs are nowadays.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Hey, so I'm curious about this PIP system. Is this because you're a Gladys Knight fan? Is that it?
Actually, yes. That's why you only roll up to 4 dice in any dice pool, because she had four pips. Which is obviously not true. You can roll more than that anyway. But yes. Sorry, I was going along with your joke.
That was great. I love it, Eloy. I didn't think you could roll with that. I didn't know you had Gladys Knight knowledge.
Oh yeah.
I've been schooled. Okay, now I'm gonna throw you a curveball, Eloy. You're talking about mechanics. See, here you go. You've fallen into my trap. All right, do you introduce any mechanics for repairing vehicles like boats? Basically, what I'm asking you is, what do you do when you have a watership down? See, I wrote that one for the Warren, but Marshall Miller couldn't make it, so there you go. I just want to use that one randomly.
I was gonna say I have no clue. Because in my games, if you're gonna have a boat of some sort, it's usually like a shoe. So I don't know how you would repair that on the fly, at least.
On the fly, I love flies.
Yeah.
That's great.
You like that?
Yeah. You got a lot of soul.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, that one got me.
Yeah, sorry, we went off the beaten track there. So thank you, Eloy, for. Gladys Knight. I blame Gladys Knight.
I do as well.
Okay, so you've already talked a lot about how humans are part of infestation,
Hmm.
and we also talked about the glass jar. So I'm really curious, Wolf. So do you prefer humans in your games? I mean, not as players. I mean, that's unavoidable. But like as characters, as NPCs, is that a big part of the games? Like you like them in all of them?
No, I mean, so Victim has them, and so does also Hyborian mice. They're depicted as these legendary titans. Um, I've run a few sort of small games where with Fudge, where humans are like the main adversary, but I tend to prefer without humans. I think because humans make it messy easily because. We know humans too well. They aren't mysterious, so I I much prefer having them face a fox or some other animal that they don't really know. Is it intelligent? And yes, it's probably intelligent, but how? And how does it perceive us? And how do we deal with this thing that kind of has an intellect, but we don't understand it? So it's dealing with the unknown, which adds a bit of mystery, which I also like.
That's cool. That's cool. Georg, I'm curious. In Mictum, that's kind of a fantasy set. You talked about zombies, and you got a wizard on the cool shirt there. Have you? This is a little out of left field. Have you ever can a Mictum be a familiar for a human wizard?
Actually, there was a story between my boyfriend and me about certain victims, especially magical victims, who worked as apprentice for or as familiar for human spellcasters, but the magic is usually outside of humans' grasp in Michtim. So humans nowadays live in a world where no magic exists to them, just profit is the only magic that happens. Yeah, and so the zombies and everything else, zombies and everything else are just part of the Michtim world and are somewhat located in Flüsterwald and other magical woods that humans don't have access to because of the whale. Whale? Is it whale? It's whale, yeah, right? I'm not sure how to speak it.
With the whales, like
whale, yeah, like
Whale.
in German it's Schleier. It's a magical.
veil?
Yeah, the whale. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry for my pronunciation.
oh
okay.
no,
I
that's,
knew
that's
what you were
fine.
talking about, so.
Okay. And yeah, there are these magical creatures, but humans nowadays just don't have really any access. Only kids. So there are. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with Honopono role playing.
It's like the Japanese style where it's mostly feel good kind of RPG
Yeah,
stuff and stories.
exactly. Yeah, and there's absolutely room for this kind of gaming in Michtim, especially with human kids in precarious situations, with parents who are violent or something like that, and kids that seek to escape from violence or so. And Michtims act like fairy tale creatures who try to help and try to better the lives of humans. It's all possible, and small children, when they talk about their interactions with Michtim, they will be belittled, of course. No one will believe them. So.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I was imagining like a magical ratatouille going on there. That's pretty cool. Huh. All right. Well, I didn't want this panel to run long. We're going to keep it short. See, because it's playing small. Okay, Rogers, take that one out of the docket there. We'll have to edit that out. That was horrible. Okay, so what I want to do is just give everybody kind of a last minute to talk about any stuff that they've got going on. Like I know Aloy, you've got you've got a second edition of an all human game, but that's okay. That's currently on Kickstarter. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I can totally talk about that. I actually have a Kickstarter going for the Ninja Crusade Second Edition, where you play ninjas. So yay! Um, excuse me. And we're about 80% to our goal, which is pretty nice. We have about 2 weeks left on the Kickstarter. It's going really, really well. We have tons of amazing artwork, and it's the final product is going to be a nice hardcover book with beautiful art. We've got a brand new system for it and everything, and there's a lot of details on the actual Kickstarter. If you just go to Kickstarter and type in Ninja, you'll get to it. It's pretty easy to find at this point.
So if you just go to Kickstarter, it might like sneak up on you.
Yes, exactly. It'll be like pow,
Blowow! Awesome. And where can we pick up Infestation and also this Mermaid Adventures thing and also Thimble? Where's the best place to find that?
Well, obviously, you can go to my online store, which is at store.thirdeyegames.net. You can also find it in most most stores because they should be in game stores as well. But also, you can go to drive-through if you just want a PDF. But there are definitely ways to find all of the games.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you, Aloy. So Georg, if somebody says this Mictum Fluffy Adventure sounds crazy good, I want to pick it up. Where's the best place to find that?
Actually, I only sell it over drive-through RPG, mostly. I'm still looking for vendors to contact me. I'm asking them to pick it up for their game stores. I have a print-on-demand version too that I would gladly give away for a reduced price so that it shows up in stores. Also combined with some gift code so that people can get the PDF for free, of course. Currently, the last thing I published was my thesis, because Michtim is actually the practical part of my thesis in design. And the thesis is called Michtim, Designing a Pen and Paper Storytelling Game. It has all my design decisions and the thoughts and the comparisons with other games, and why I picked mechanics that way, why I picked the story elements like that. Yeah, and I'm currently working on a small module. You can see it in my lower third. It's called Journey to Castle Grimmenstein, which will be a really small adventure, because a lot of people ask me to provide more support, more pre-made games or modules for Michtim. So I don't have a lot of time to create new games at the moment, and I feel dedicated to this game. So I will probably just create more content for this one. So
that's awesome. When this module comes out, is that going to be on drive-through as well?
Yeah, it's going to be on drive-through. It will probably be very cheap, because at first I thought I want to write a lot, but now I've been reading up again, doing some research, and found out that maybe too much preparation is even bad. So I'm trying to keep it concise and small and very affordable, and yeah.
You can't go wrong keeping it small. It's okay.
Yeah, keeping it small.
Awesome.
Question,
so drive.
Make a print on demand on that too, because I find those to be pretty nice. Just hunting.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm currently I don't have any clue how big it's going to be. Probably it would not be worth it to have a printed version. What I want to do is collect all those modules into a physical master version someday soon. But work has been pretty demanding as of late, so it's hard to come up with enough free time to develop stuff at the moment.
That's okay, Georg. You make it what you can, and I'm sure the Wolf will buy it, and then we'll get the word out, because that sounds really cool. It's Wolf. As we kind of close this out here, what games do you have left on the Virtuacon schedule? Do you need any players?
I do, actually, and this kind of so we have a live question, actually.
I missed it, Rogers. Wait, hold on. Let's jump to the question before we close out with you. Okay, so there's this guy named Dave Danizana Okay, I'm gonna bring this question in. Do you find it harder to get adults into games about small, cute creatures versus, say, more typical fantasy hack and slash? That's a great question. This Dave Bandanese is really smart. So let's start with Georg. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. I have the feeling that sex sells, dark fantasy sells a lot. But that's in total contrast to what I want to do. So yeah, it's a lot harder. I get a lot of feedback from people that don't play it. They say like, oh, that looks so cute, but who would want to play this? And then it's like, yeah, it's finding excuses or explanations and saying, yeah, maybe you could try it with your kids. And um, people like bronies, like those My Little Ponies fandom, they are the ones who actually go out and pick up kawaii games. But it's a lot harder. I think I could probably earn a lot more and do a lot more if I had taken the mechanics and used the game with ninjas, for example, because I have a ninja hack for Medium RPG as well. And I think that would work a lot better to get new gamers, because ninjas are cool. Let's face it, they are really cool.
They
You
really
know,
are.
Yeah.
he's right,
There
but
they are.
frogs can be ninjas. I'm just saying. I have a cousin. Eloy, so what about you? What's your answer? Do you find it harder to get adults to try these games?
It's interesting if an adult has a kid, it's really easy to get them to try it because they'll try it for their kid and then they end up having a good time. I've had games where I'm actually running it for the kids and the parents are there, and then the parents get so into it. They're supposed to just be there just to supervise their kid while their kid plays, but they get so, hey, maybe you should do this, and maybe that, and it's like, and they get more into it than even the kid is sometimes. I've had entire groups of adults show up for Infestation before, and they all have an amazing time with it. So I've never had a problem with that. I think it's all kind of, because my games aren't necessarily about cute little creatures. Like we were talking about having humans in the game, and do we like having humans in the game? Like for Infestation, for instance, humans are all over in the game, but they're not there to be your friend. They're there, one, as a hazard, and two, as a food source, because a lot of the bugs drink blood. So it becomes it's not like, hey, I'm a cute little bug and I get to run around. It's like, no, you're this creepy, nasty, gross bug, and now you have to try and survive and not get squished. So it's maybe my games aren't the target for this question, but I haven't had any problem getting adults to play my games.
So if Mictum drank a vampiric Mictum, Georg, it's a clue for me.
There is a vampire calling. It's in the making.
Oh my
I was gonna
gosh,
say,
that's
like-
crazy.
I was gonna say, like, the only thing that I could say would probably be cooler than Ninja would be vampires. Like, so, I mean, go for it.
Victim is an awesome game. It has everything from cybernetic organisms to wizards, vampires, and ninjas.
It's a bit of a mix between Evox, Smurfs, and Shadowrun. Zelda.
That sold.
I think you've
So-
just sold me on the game, totally. Like, that was a great pitch.
That's the whole panel right in a box, right there.
Seriously.
Okay, man. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Dave Bernardini. Okay, Wolf, you said you've got some games left. You
Yes.
need the players. What are the games and when are they? If we're going to get some people who get excited, like Dave Bernardini, when he's not running Mutant Future and other OSR games, he might sneak in and play this.
Yes, so I'm running tomorrow. I have two playing small games. So I'm running Hyborian Mice at, let's see, time zones. I think that's noon in GMT time. And then 6 hours after that, I run Historia Rodentia. You can check up those times, but they are tomorrow, both of them. in Europe afternoon and evening times, and I'm looking for players for both of them. And it's been sometimes hard when you have a game like Victim, but I find that adults get so much into that, and they sort of the people I have played with are really good at sort of putting themselves in the position of the small character, the small mouse or whatever, and really living the game through those small eyes. And I think that's the sort of selling factor that you gotta try to pitch when you're looking for players. You gotta tell them that it's not about cute mice. It's about, for instance, for Mouse Guard, it's about a game about survival. And for Victim, it's also a bit of that. It's a game about struggle and coping with your emotions. I can't thank the emotion system enough. I really like it. It's different, and I think it adds to adults who like to do a bunch of metagaming. So it adds a metagaming level so that the adults can play the game on a different level from the kids that they're playing with. They want to do all this metagaming and power game. You can do power gaming with Victim, which is pretty interesting. And they can do that while they're playing with their kids who are playing cute, fluffy, hamster-like creatures. So yeah, small games are awesome. Everybody should try them. If you haven't tried them, you should sign up to one of my games on Sunday and try it out for yourself.
Awesome. And the best way to find that is join the. I'm sorry, Wolf. Sorry, guys. What?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Join the Virtuacon Google Plus community, and both of Wolf's games are posted there, and so you can just go there and join it, and you'll have a great time. Wolf seems like a great GM, and so you should give that a shot. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on my very first panel for Virtuacon. It was super fun having you on, Aloy, and Georg, and Wolf. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tom. It was great.
Dankeschön.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Tom. I think you did a good job with your first panel. I had my first Indie Plus panel just a little bit ago. I think you did a great job, though.
Man, that's awesome. Suck it, Rogers. You said I was going to blow it. Okay, have a great night, guys.